But before I give it back to you, Jay, I want to set this up because Tina, when we won the MTN8, what it is ngamasela. I don't get with the same intro when you answer.
You don't tell me what to say. Like I am my own man
be
with
the
my
same.
own mind. I'm not listening to you through an earpiece and then taking your consultation and then giving my opinion.
Be the same.
So
be fair.
In terms of how the game went. Controversies, and we are gonna cover it right here on Tour Front. Welcome to yet another episode of Tour Front. My name is Jay, and I am with Chuck. Chuck, how you doing? How's your weekend, man?
I'm all good, man. Pirates won. That's all I'll give you. The rest up in the air, but positive. It's a new week.
Close to being eliminated, but the three-peat is still on. We'll get into that one, but that aforementioned controversy. Kaizer Chiefs came through 3-1 winners in that Nedbank Cup quarterfinal against Stellies. And the scoreline may be a bit bloated in the end, but the winning goal that came off of the corner, Chuck, just controversial. Is it offside? Is it a foul on the keeper? Ref goes to assistant and just a whole lot happens and then he blows for the goal, right? And so I have to ask you, Kaizer Chiefs through to the semifinals in the Nedbank Cup. Did they benefit?
It looks like it. Because, I mean, let's go off the coach's words, Upaka, right? In one game against Kaizer Chiefs, they were awarded a penalty and then it was overturned. Badliwa against Paris in the MTN8 final. Paris take a free kick 5 meters ahead. That's allowed. And then this one, the linesman suggests there's something wrong and there's an infringement in the box, but it gets overruled by the referee, who himself did not see anything to begin with. So based on that vantage point, and because us as the viewers, we were not any better off. We just kept seeing replays of the foul, but we didn't see why it was not a foul in the end. So it does look like they've benefited. But I will say this, not the first time we've used VAR in the league, because we've seen, especially from last season as well, where referee consults the fourth official or the linesman, and somehow they get to a decision, and you're like, based on what? Nibonin, what did you see a second time round for you to clearly know what's going on? And decisions happen. So there's a precedence, but either way, Jay, that one was dubious for me. I saw Modi's elbow into the side of Sage Stevens, and so, yeah, it was a bit soft, but keepers are protected. We know that much. If it was just me and any other player, it's usually play on. But in the box, we know that keepers are the precious child of football. You can't touch them, you can't shove them, you can't jump into, you can't head their hands, you can't do anything basically. And so because there was contact, Chiefs definitely benefited. Because if the referee is not sure and the linesman is sure about a decision, why swing it the other way around? So but before I give it back to you, Jay, I want to set this up because Tina, when we won the MTN8, what it is ngamasela. I don't get with the same intro when you answer.
Please don't tell me what to say. Like I am my own man with my
same.
own mind. I'm not listening to you through an earpiece and then taking your consultation and then giving my opinion.
Be the same.
So
fair.
In terms of how the game went, no, I do think Kaizer Chiefs were the better team. Particularly in that first half, I thought they did a great job to stop Stellies from playing. There was a time during that game I was actually looking for Devin Titus, because Devin Titus is Stellies' leading goal scorer, and he's become the talisman this season, you know. And I thought for a moment that, hey man, this man is not on the pitch, is he not playing? And he was playing. He was just neutralized by the Kaizer Chiefs defensive scheme, and also being concerned that will a midfield pairing of Ucele as well as Umshini, will it work? And it worked, particularly with Umshini, right? And I saw him working in the middle of the park. We know what he's particularly good at, which is those through passes, which is connecting the play, and he did that as well. But it was his industry that I was most impressed by, and it looks like he does feature in the plans of the coach. And it's yet another game where what I'm most impressed with, where Nabi is concerned, that he's giving everyone a chance. I mean, Modi, who eventually scored that goal, he's been now in the team for a good run of games. And even though we've spoken about the fact that Modi is missing chances, he keeps getting into positions where he has the chances, you know, and just generally Chiefs are better with him in the team at the moment. So in terms of how the two teams played, I did think Kaizer Chiefs were the better side. Also, in terms of that goal, right? That controversial goal. I don't think there was a foul on the keeper. And also, I don't think there was an offside because Sage Stevens punched that ball and then it ended up with Umoid. But in terms of if it was blown as a foul, I don't think it was a foul. So originally, I think that goal should have stood. But because the assistant ref put up his flag for something, right? And we're not certain like what exactly it is, because the ref could have seen that there was nothing wrong, but then he sees the flag of the assistant ref. Then he goes to the assistant ref to actually find out what is it that you think you saw, because if it's offside, then the ref, of course, probably would not overturn that, So the assumption is that the assistant ref saw an infringement on the goalkeeper. And the thing is, the referee does have the final say in terms of what a decision is, and he's got that prerogative, right? So if he goes to the assistant ref and the assistant ref says that infringement on the keeper, and if the ref says I saw nothing and he blows for the goal, I have no issue with that. I have no issue with him consulting his assistant ref and overturning it. My issue though is that after speaking to the assistant ref, he then is speaking in his mouthpiece, in his earpiece. Who are you talking to? Because then the camera pans to the fourth official, right? And seemingly it's a conversation that's happening with the fourth official, like VAR. We have VAR light happening right in front of us. The minister said, Chuck, that VAR is coming in April. Last time I checked, we are still in March. We're not even in the middle of March as yet. And yet that conversation that happens on the sidelines where, as I'm saying, the ref is speaking seemingly to the fourth official. And you are right, Chuck, because I've noted this and tweeted about it as well, that we've seen decisions taken like this in the PSL where you can see that the ref is talking to somebody in his ear, and then he's overturning a decision. Like, that is not instinct that suddenly took over, that, you know what, I'm replaying this in my head and actually this is how it went and I need to overturn the decision. So the fact that this is happening, this happened where, as I'm saying, there's a consultation seemingly off of a replay. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And on that basis, Kaizer Chiefs absolutely benefited.
No, Jay, they did. And they were fun with Mama Sale. I mean, I was waiting for that in your speech, but it's fine. I think, Jay, on the balance of play, they played well. Serena was decent. Should have taken, I think, more shots at goal. I think, as you said, Mshini was good as well. Generally speaking, and people like Msimang were very sound. People who haven't been in the team for a long time come in and they display quite good football. But on the point of contention, Jay, I think when we take examples from other sports, right? At least go rugby, there were no mitigating circumstances. They didn't try to go lower, hence the yellow card. Then they're not giving you a choice in the conversation, but they're telling you why it happened. So when he's consulting the linesman, he's consulting the fourth official, the referee doesn't then say captains only, here's what happens, decision. He just says goal. And you don't know based off what. And so everyone is raging. Then if you have after the pitch where I saw Stelli's player, he threw his jacket on the referee's face, and I was like, dude, it's not worth it. The game is done, But I think, Jay, it could have been handled much, much better because, yes, we don't have the technology. Everyone knows we don't have the technology. So tell us what it's based on. That's why they wanted to introduce in certain stadia that screen to then say decision offside. And on some screens, they give you the replay or they show you why it's offside or how the infringement happens. And then as a crowd and as the viewers as well, you're like, oh, I see why. Whether you think right or wrong, but I see what they were looking at. With this one, as you say, you're naming offside, you're naming a foul. You don't know what they were looking at. You don't know what they were blowing for initially. So no one knows what happened in terms of what the linesman saw. No one knows in terms of what happens in terms of what the referee got clarity on for him to award the goal. So we're all in the dark. All we know is that Stelli's lost. And that's not good enough. I think we need a bit more clarity for him to say, guys, I saw from my vantage point, because granted, here's the truth. I don't think the ref is in the best position because of the congestion of bodies. I don't think the linesman is in the best position either. So I don't know which can one clearly say, I saw this better than you, unless they're really on an offside, because then the linesman is primed to see that because that's why he's in that particular place on the pitch. But then for them to have a conversation and then the guy's like, I think I saw it better than you. I'm like, Pule was basically, Pule was in the 6-yard box. How did you see that? And George McClough as well. How do you see through all those points that it was not a foul? If the call is a foul. If it's an offside being overturned, how did you see that, Mr. Referee, as the guy who makes the decision? So controversy. And I mean, yeah, on the balance of play, Chiefs are the better side, but that's not how football goes all the time. And even if you are the lesser side in this particular tie, you can be aggrieved.
Yes, you can be. I think the ref could have done a better job selling the fact that he's talking to someone other than the assistant ref. Because if that conversation Ipelela Guboboy too, and it's like, okay, they came to a decision between the two of them. Even if he's speaking in his earpiece, for me, it's like keep looking at the assistant ref and make it seem as if you're talking to this guy. Because now that we see that you're talking to the fourth official or someone else, that's why it's so controversial, you know. But Kaizer Chiefs are through to the semi-final of the Nedbank Cup, where they await the winner of the Sundowns and Skokuna match, which of course was postponed because of double bookings and administratively South African football this season has just had a stinker. But Chuck, another team that is in the semi-finals for a third season in a row, going for a third Nedbank Cup in a row, that is Orlando Pirates, coming through in a tough game against SuperSport United and winning ultimately on penalties. Going for the three-peat, and we know that they are still mathematically in the running for the league, and also, of course, they are in the quarterfinals of the CAF Champions League. So there's a genuine treble that is out there for either one of Pirates or Sundowns to win. But Chuck, is it still important, considering that they have been the Cup Kings, they've won cups in this particular cup? Is it still important for Orlando Pirates to win the Nedbank Cup, particularly if they do not win either or both of the league or the CAF Champions League?
I think, Jay, with the Sundowns fixture being postponed, I get to say at least you get to know what it feels like to then have a game postponed for reasons that are not your own, you know, in terms of what do we have to do with booking issues?
Actually, yeah? Those reasons might be Sundowns.
because of stadium choice.
Because they are the ones who, as the home team, who provide availability to
they should have
to the league.
Checked the availability.
So they should have known that we have an under-17 ladies game that is happening. It's just terrible.
Okay, then it's fine. But either way, it's just fixture congestion, which is what not everyone, but Pirates and Sundowns have to deal with. More so Pirates now. But I think, Jay, if you look at the Carling knockout, I think it wasn't necessarily priority, but looking at when the final happened, how early it was in the season, I would have said go for it, you know, because one mind, you still have the bodies. At some point, it'll take a toll, but for now, we're still in the running to get more silverware. That didn't happen, got knocked out by Makesi. But where things stand now, right, Jay, I think it's almost like Klopp's last dance in terms of, hey, there's a quadruple happening, and you go for it on all fronts. But you have to be realistic because League is very difficult. Champions League almost as difficult, maybe slightly easier because of the number of games. We have to still play Sundowns. There's games in hand. There's all these things, right? So I think, Jay, go for it. I think you've shown your hand as Rivera in terms of where your go-to players in terms of Pirates depth. Your Ndlondlos, your Shandus, your Goodman Museles. So go for it. You've got the legs. Tito is back. I mean, I don't know what happens with Saleng, but I think we need that body as well in terms of going for the three-peat, the three-peat or more titles. So, Jay, I think, because at the end of the day, we want to say, because it looks like it's Ribero's last season as well, hence the Klopp comparisons. And so I think go for it. You've absolutely got nothing to lose with the cup. We've got with the CAF Champions League. Got nothing to lose with the league, with how things look. If there's anything that is equal, that's attainable, it's Nedbank Cup. Yeah, you might have Chiefs or Sundowns in your way. Obviously, Gallant, not overlooking Gallants as well. But I think that one is the easier fruit to claim. And obviously, that's what the cups have been in terms of the real price here. The grueling race is the league, not the cups, because MTN8 is 4 games or whatever, you get your cup. Same thing with the Nedbank Cup, with thereabout. If those are attainable and they appease the fans, by all means, go there. But I think it's important, Jay, to get the CAF. It's important to run Sundowns close if you don't go all the way to do it yourself, because we've seen it, done it. And I know I'm not giving you a straight answer in terms of priorities, but I think go for it all, because we have to go for CAF. We haven't been here in a long time. We have to give it our best shot. We have to go for the league, because for so many seasons we've been bridesmaids and never really good enough, basically. And so I think it's important to defend, because if you lose it and then you fall in the league, it's almost like a weak season, because MTN8 only. So go for it. For as long as it's still there, go for it.
I think it's important if you don't win the league or the Champions League. But if you capture one of those, maybe not as much, and maybe even if you don't, because coming into the season, yes, Orlando Pirates have won the cup competitions, but we wanted to see them in the league. And the Orlando Pirates fans also want to measure themselves against the Sundowns in the league, as well as then if you can do it in the CAF Champions League, then that's on par. Those two competitions. So we've seen Orlando Pirates win the Nedbank Cup, man. Like, we've seen them win the MTN8 as well, and that's a great achievement that they three-peated the MTN8. It'd be a great achievement as well for Orlando Pirates to three-peat the Nedbank Cup, because we have not seen that happen, at least in our lifetime. But do I think it's important? I think it'd be nice to win the cup. I think it's always great to win, as I said previously here on To a Front, that we play to win, right? But it would not represent progress. And in the season 24-25, the progress that I personally have been looking for where Orlando Pirates are concerned is that, do they finally take that step that we continuously speak about coming to every season, that Orlando Pirates are the team that are best primed, best positioned to take on Sundowns and end the monopoly that Sundowns have in the league. But then if another season is going to come and go and they have not done that, and they return into the CAF Champions League, and now, as we spoke in terms of, there is no easy draw in the Champions League, but if you are comparing apples with apples, they are on the easier half of the draw, that there is an opportunity to go win a CAF Champions League. Yes, the experience might be lacking, but the players are there, and the coach seems to be one, along with his squad, adept at winning cup competitions, and this is the next step, or the level up in terms of cup competitions. So if what happens at the end of the season is that Orlando Pirates have won the MTN8 and the Nedbank Cup, as I'm saying, long term, when you look back on the history books, it will say that they accumulated more numbers in the trophy case. But for where this team has been under Coach Jose Rivero and where they were supposed to be and when they were going this season, I don't think that they're winning the Nedbank Cup is as important.
Jay, would you say those same words if, obviously, with the same permutations of no Champions League, no league, but in the league they amass like 70 points and they lose out by maybe 6 points to Sundowns, because they would have racked a whole lot more points than they did previously in league campaigns, and still didn't get a cup at the end of the season? Do you think that's still not progress?
I want to borrow from you when you say that it does not matter what the other team gets. You need to find a way to get an extra point beyond them, because we've had this argument, right, in terms of what can you do against Manchester City, and you're like, well, you need to go do it. Like, if they've got 99, you go get 100 points if you want to win the league. But I do hold on to the fact that sometimes a juggernaut is a juggernaut. Like, if Sundowns end up with 75 plus points or 80 points on the board, I don't think there's much you can do about that, right? So I'd excuse them. I mean, if you end up with 70 points and you don't win the league, you're unlucky. You're unlucky more than you are a team that dropped the ball. You know, those are the unfortunate events of it. So yeah, I'd say that there's nothing really they could have done in that situation. You might want to make the argument that well, go game for game, pound for pound. You know, if Sundowns are able to win those games against the other teams and they're able to win against you 4-1, then you need to be able to turn them around in your own stadium and then go match the results against the other teams. But again, as I'm saying, if Sundowns have a record number of points in a PSL season ever, you're asking for much. You really are asking for much to ask that team to go and usurp that total. But if that doesn't happen, then it has to be CAF Champions League. In light of, as I'm saying, in light of, have they made progress? Have Orlando Pirates made progress this season? And progress this season is not MTN8, is not Nedbank Cup, because been there, done that. You know, progress this season for Orlando Pirates would have been is the league or the CAF Champions League, and then if you want to sprinkle those other cup competitions in there as well, then yes. But in and of themselves, no, Orlando Pirates would not have progressed if what they come away with this season is an MTN8 and another Nedbank Cup trophy.
I mean, yeah, when you paint it black and white, maybe that's what it is, the bare facts of it. But I think We weren't in the CAF Champions League last season. And to be in the knockout phases right now in the quarterfinals, I think that's some sort of progress. We're on course to score more points than we did last season. I think that's some sort of progress. But end of the day, like you said, we play for some sort of silverware, or at least scare Sundowns versus end of March, the season is over. That's very different. So I think the only benefit in this particular conversation on my side of the argument is that the Nedbank Cup draw happens much, much later. So by that time we actually play that fixture, we'd probably get a better picture in terms of where we stand league-wise, get a better picture of where we stand in terms of CAF. If we're still going strong, I think if there's ever something to sacrifice in terms of it is an Nedbank Cup, obviously, in terms of importance, and you go all out. If you still have a chance in the CAF Champions League, if there's still a route to the Cup or Cup glory in the league, go that way. So I think, give it all you got. And if you've got some juice to squeeze out when the Nedbank Cup semis and finals come around, go all the way. Jay, going abroad, right? Because you support different to I in South Africa and same in England. Arsenal versus United at Old Trafford ends in a 1-1 draw. When I looked at the game, Jay, I saw an Arsenal that had given up. Basically, they were just angaz. They didn't look inspiring. But on the other side, the home team looked as bad as they've done the entire season. I want to ask you this question, Jay, because there were noises about, Arteta must get a striker, but there are also valid things like injuries to Saka and to Havertz. So things have happened this season for them to not be where they want to be ideally, and so they've dropped more points in the chase for the league title. Looking at the run, Jay, where you had to go against City and you got pipped at the end twice, and then there was Liverpool with the front run, and you went there in the mix. It was a 3-horse race, and then City went and won again. Looking at how bad Arteta's team is right now, do you think that Arteta has missed his window of success in the Premier League? Or do you think this team and this manager, at some point in time in the near future, they'll go on to win it? Sorry.
I would say Arsenal are bad, Chuck.
In that game, Jay.
They're in second place in the league.
But in that game, there wasn't much desire.
This is the Premier League. You know, like someone noted how which team were they pointing to? I think one of the teams, I think in La Liga or the Bundesliga, where one of the teams going for the league title had a whole host of changes, against the 10th place team. You cannot do that against a Brentford, who I believe are like a 10th or thereabout, because you're gonna get pumped, right? So yeah, and you can have a performance like that against a Manchester United. It's not a great season for Arsenal, but I wouldn't say they're bad, right? But at the same time, they are not title challengers.
They've floundered, Jay.
And they are disappointing. They're absolutely disappointing from the heights of the previous two seasons, without actually winning the league. And Arteta was very bullish at the end of last season, with these players looking distraught and as though they were going to go for the run this season to cement themselves as champions, because he said that they're going to be back. But he also said just 2 weeks ago that when asked if the title chase is over, that over his dead body. And then in the press conference or in the post match interview, he didn't want to stay to be asked questions about the striker or the season that they've had, And he cuts a man who's absolutely lost his head, and he himself doesn't have great confidence. And he's a very emotional manager. Also seeing those behind the scenes things where he sounds like he's on the brink of crying when he's talking to this team about them not fulfilling their potential or doing as he said. So in terms of whether I think Arsenal will be back to win a league title or the ship has sailed, by a hair, Chuck, by a hair, I think the ship has not quite yet sailed. And the big reason for that is what is happening around, right? I expressed this concern when Arsenal, I think 2 seasons ago, when they had 4 players have 12 or 13 goals or more in the league, where you had Odegaard score 15 goals, which was, I think, the record for a midfielder without penalties. And I thought to myself, this is the upper end of what you're going to get from these players. You want to win the league this season, because I don't think another season is coming where Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Gabriel Jesus, and Kai Havertz are going to be pushing in and around like that 12 to 15 goal mark all at the same time in the league. And it's proven to be the case, And then Arsenal, of course, did not invest in a striker. And Arsenal haven't really had an out-and-out goal scorer since Aubameyang left the club. And he left in 2022. So the recruitment as well leaves a lot to be desired. But I look at what is happening around, and Liverpool are going to be champions this season. Is Mo Salah going to come back? Is Trent Alexander-Arnold going to be part of Liverpool? Or is he going to be donning the white of Real Madrid? And I think either one of those two is not coming back, or both. And as a result, as well, even if Mo Salah does come back, do I think Mo Salah has, after with 10 games to go, 27 goals and 17 assists? I don't think he has that kind of performance, which means you are looking at the other members of that front three to help carry the load. Do I trust the Diaz? No, not as much. Do I trust Gakpo? I think he's coming to his own, but I don't think he'll be able to be a Mane, for example. And Darwin is Darwin, and we don't know if Darwin is going to be back. And I don't trust that Jota can stay injury-free for the entirety of a season. So I think Liverpool will regress some. And even if they don't regress, I think the ceiling for a Liverpool is around that 85-point mark, which means Arsenal don't have to come back next season and go get 95 points, as has previously been the requirement when City have been going on their run as they have. And then there's Manchester City, who you think they're going to have a better season than this season. But we did that keep or sell video just a week ago. And there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, and I don't think over the course of one transfer window you're going to be able to do that. So the teams that Arsenal are going to be looking towards in terms of challenging for the league title, I think they're going to be close enough where you can still, if you make the right investment and you can reinvigorate the energy that was there in the past 2 seasons, they can go and be close. So as a result, Chuck, I don't think the window has quite closed on Arsenal under Mikel Arteta.
I think it's firmly shut at this point. And I think so because, Jay, I think after a while you get tired of being second. Because for however much you put into the game, however much you put in terms of goals and points and performances, you're just not the team that wins the Premier League at the end. Whether it's City getting 95 plus points and whatnot, it's fine. But the question was, when whatever number is required to get there, can Arsenal get there? And they always seem to fall short. And if we're honest, when we say they bottled it was because it was in their own hands. And we're saying that because there were games that looked winnable, but they just didn't convert. And so they could have gotten, I know it's astronomical numbers, because when we speak about 85, that's just generally the average average number that teams get to win the league. 90s, 100s, we don't do that or don't see that very often. And so when you have the capability or the ability and the potential to get those numbers and you don't in a season where you need to, I don't know if, Jay, even if it comes down to 85, will Arsenal do it, because there seems to be someone else all the time. Those players peaked. Those players did their best ever performance. Like, as much as you put up those numbers, Jay, I think it's essential to then say, Uti, if we're not going to have Martinelli score 15 and Saka score 15 and Odegaard score 15, who is this striker going to carry the burden of goals and give you those performances? Because obviously you don't need to win 5-0 every other day. 1-0 is fine. You can have a striker score you 20 and you can still win the league. My question is, if those guys are not delivering at that level, because they did deliver at that level at some point and were barren at the end of the day, who's going to carry that burden of goals, number one, and who's going to step up yet again and try to win something when it seemed to be futile at this point in time? The other thing is the manager. And I think Arteta is stubborn. As much as, yes, he's brilliant for working his way around the injuries, with Merino in the striker's position, with him going without Saka for as long as he's done and being without Saliba in the one season and then he comes back, fine, you can tinker and work things around. But when you need to get to the ultimate level, there were holes that were plugged a little too late from my understanding. The striker thing should have been sorted out long time ago. The acquisition of Sterling, I don't know, that's some stubborn, that's what he wants, but it's not working out. The acquisition of Havertz as well. When he was at Chelsea, I didn't see what he was going to bring to the party. Yes, he scored goals, but is he the guy? He's not the guy. So for the fact that he's gone to the transfer window and gotten guys that didn't necessarily raise the standard, because when you count Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka, those are the guys who were there before. He's come in, bought players who haven't necessarily raised the profile. Rice is a good addition, but has he taken like the next step, like over what they were with Granit Xhaka? Not necessarily as a midfield dynamo, but they found solutions elsewhere. So for me, Jay, I think we've seen the best of Arsenal. Too bad that there was Pep in front of him. Too bad there's Arne Slot this season. So I think that ship has sailed here because I don't think that Liverpool will stand still. I think the fact that they're going to win the league is money. The fact that they're gonna probably go deep into Champions League because they nicked a win against PSG. They'll have resources to strengthen and find solutions because the Gakpos and the Jotas are already there. You just need someone's going to chip in with like another 10 or 15. So I think they're already there. I don't expect City to be as bad. So I think other teams are going to move and improve. The question is, will Arsenal improve the most? Will Arsenal be consistent? I don't see that coming because when they did look like the best team, when they looked like they could go on a winning run and be unstoppable, they had nothing to show for it. So Jay, I don't see how they go again, whether it's for 80 points or 90 points.
Yeah, I think the team is in there somewhere, Chuck, still. And they are still relatively young. They're getting up there now. I think Odegaard is turning 27 this year, but Saka's still 24, this year. So I think there's still, that team is still in there. And I think Arsenal can go and improve in the transfer market. You expect Jorginho and Partey are going to move away. And then the likelihood is that Zubimendi is going to come in. If you can land a Zubimendi, then you're stable in the middle of the park. How I feel about Rice. I think there was money that was thrown down the drain. Same thing with Merino, because you went to Sociedad, you gave them money, and the midfielder you came back with was not Zubimendi. What do you mean? And then definitely they're going to buy a striker. Now the question will be, is it going to be someone like an Isak, or is it someone like a Sesko out at Salzburg? Can he come in and hit the ground running like we saw with Haaland? We don't know, but what I do know, where the coach is concerned, and there are questions whether Arteta is the man to take them quite over the top. But what he has proven at Arsenal is that he improves players. Almost every single player who's played under Arteta has improved or has had their best form. That's if they didn't come to Arsenal past their prime, like a Jorginho. But Havertz has been his best version in England at Arsenal. Granit Xhaka been there at Arsenal for a long time. When Arteta got his hands on him, he became his best version. Same thing we are seeing with Saka. You can make that argument for Martinelli as well. So there is that trust or confidence in the coach that if you do give him the tools, he's going to improve them. The question, as you are asking, to what extent? Also, when the champions, you imagine, are going to not stand still in the transfer market, and you do think City are going to throw a whole lot of money at their problems. So we'll see. I think that Arsenal still, the window is still open for them to win a league. Chuck doesn't quite think so. Tell us what you think in the comments. Chuck, Manchester United, they were brave.
Get away with that. At home, we were brave.
They were brave, Chuck.
My gosh, we've fallen off.
Middle to lower parts of the league, playing as a team that were chasing the title this season, and they had a good shape. They were compact, and they did not allow many attempts at their goal. But and as you say, right, Manchester United were playing at home, and they were more defensive in their approach against Arsenal. Came away with a point, came away with a result. Is that something to cheer about for Manchester United fans?
Nope. I wish I could just stop there because there are no positives, Jay. I mean, if you think about it, the goal is a set piece. That's not coaching. That's just Bruno's individual brilliance that you found there as the manager. And as much as I said Arsenal played badly, if they played to 70% of what we know them to look like, at least over the past 2 seasons, if not necessarily this season, they win that game easy. Because if you think about the chance that Trossard misses, the chance that Trossard missed, there's like 3 or 4 shots that if maybe they're on target, there's a rebound to score or something, but he kept shooting wide. Merino shot wide as well. Maybe if they had a Saka, because he's proven to be quite pivotal in the ties between the two teams. Just Jay, if you look at the overall application of the United players, it's a low block. Okay, fine, granted, we're doing that. But in front of the box, no one's mopping up, no one's pressing. We played better in the second half, but Arsenal were all over us in the first half. And you're like, where's that passion and that fight where you will kick someone, pull someone, tug, do something, let them know that you're there. But for as long as I was counting, Jay, in the first half, the entirety of it, every Arsenal midfield player had time on the ball to do whatever they wanted with it. Hence the number of goals, the chances at goal that they had. It was a different story in the second half. They played a bit more. Hence there were chances on the counter. I mean, Raya was brilliant to deny Bruno and to deny... What was the other save that he... Mazraoui. Xerxes had other issues. Oh, yes, actually. Although that was straight at him, but good reflex save nonetheless. There's the Mazraoui volley as well that he saved. So, all in all, there are chances that you look at and you're like, had we scored those goals, maybe without Arsenal looking, maybe we'd get to win that one. But as much as Arsenal were as bad as I say they were, the goal was coming because there were chances every other minute. There was chances being created. So, there are no positives in that one. Same old, same old. I looked at the table and I was like, the next possible, I think to crack into the top 10, we need to get 10 points. And Fulham's not going to watch us grab 10 points while they do nothing. So, we're going to end the season at 13th. I can't see any positives. Just a point at Old Trafford. Being afraid to play at Old Trafford. I mean, for as long as Jay, in the past 3-4 seasons, Arsenal have been the better side than United. That was clear, right? Because of the FA Cup, because of the Carabao Cup, the better footballing team was Arsenal. But every time I got to Old Trafford, we made a game of it. It was a thriller. But this one, you're like, you guys don't even believe you can do it. We're just holding out. You're hoping it ends as 1-1 or 0-0. And I think that is not the way to go. I don't want to see that as a CJ. This is what I want to. Based on our conversation last week, this is what it feels like to be a United fan. Nothing is moving. Nothing is going anywhere. See, when you drop points at United, you're disappointed. I'm like, I've seen this before. So to answer your question, Jay, it's not progress at all. I'm not happy with that one. I'm happy we scored. I'm happy we looked at, for the most part of the game, like we're gonna win it. But nah.
Manchester United should have won the game, Chuck, based on the chances that they had. And I think, I mean, of course, like outside of a great day at the office from the Arsenal goalkeeper, David Raya, Manchester United do come away with a win in that one. And the decision to sit back in the low block and challenge Arsenal to try and navigate a block, which is something Arsenal have struggled with this season and continue to struggle with in that game against United, and then being able to hit them on the counter. That would have been the game plan perfectly executed. And yes, United did suffer in that first half, but they were able to keep Arsenal out. You know, as much as Arsenal dominated possession, I don't necessarily think Arsenal dominated that game. I don't think they were stressing Manchester United and their defensive patterns. And we really saw Onana come into the game or be forced to make super saves in the same way that we saw David Raya, in particular in the second half. And then on the counter, Garnacho was dangerous. I felt he had a good game, and it was smart of him to run on that left hand side because Caliafori was struggling defensively, from what I could see. And then of course you have the quality of a Bruno, and when that free kick was blown, I knew that was going in, you know. And I thought to myself as an Arsenal fan, man, just make sure that the ball doesn't find its way to Bruno because he's such a dangerous player. He's such a good player. He's very clearly the talisman for Manchester United. So I do think, Chuck, there were some things like against a team that is in second place, and considering that Manchester United, if we cast them in the light that they find themselves in right now and not as Manchester United, a team that is, what position are United in now? 11, 12, 13th, somewhere there. But a team that is there, and that kind of performance against Arsenal, yeah, it does not fill you with the kind of injection that, yeah, man, I can see us going on to challenge for a Champions League spot or the league next season. But in that game, I think you can feel unlucky to not have won that game, which means that's a positive. That United were in a position to beat Arsenal. Arsenal just had a great performance from their goalkeeper. Besides that, United would have won that match. So that's a positive, Chuck.
Jay, it sucks being where we are because we're not moving. And the thing about that, Jay, yes, Ray had an inspired performance, but I just can't think of the teams that I saw in the highlights this weekend. There was a goalkeeper who was in inspired form. He made like 2, 3, 5 good saves in the first half, like another 3, but his team still considered like 2 goals. That's because somehow when teams are good, they find a way. That's all we could muster, and I've been seeing this the entire season. When Højlund misses a chance and he delays his shots, I'm like, I knew this was happening. I knew this was gonna come. And so when these patterns repeat over and over again, Jay, it doesn't help. Had we sneaked that game, say Raya has a performance and somehow Rice misses that shot and we win 1-0. Even then, performance-wise, I can't say I'd be happy for the result because we get to move up a place. We get past Spurs, I think, which is where we are right now, the race against Spurs, and that's all we can speak about. But for the mere fact that even with those performances, Jay, there's nothing to show. Like I pointed this where we are doesn't move the needle, doesn't help our season. So it's just same old, Jay. I mean, I can't even look at those positives and say we're closer. We're not closer to anything. Our goal difference is still -6. We needed those goals, Tina, Jay.
Well, it did not happen, and Manchester United managed to salvage a point against previously title-chasing Arsenal. I think this is good. Chuck doesn't think this is anything to write home about. But Chuck,
Yeah.
over in the UFC, right, we saw a new champion crowned in the light heavyweight division. That is Ankalaev, who came through against Alex Pereira, winning a decision 49, which was scored 49-46 to him. What did you make of the fight? And is this result surprising, considering Pereira is maybe the most dangerous man in the UFC at the moment?
It's very interesting when you think about the fact that everyone kept saying, give Ankalaev a chance, and then you get Jamal Hill. Give Ankalaev a chance, then you get Prohaska. Give Ankalaev a chance, then you get, who's the last guy who was beaten? I forgot, but that guy got destroyed by Alex Pereira because everyone said he's the kryptonite to Pereira because he can wrestle. We didn't see much wrestling, or at least we did a lot in the fourth round while grappling against the cage. He didn't execute any successful takedowns on Pereira, which was also interesting. But I never saw Ankalaev as the kryptonite. I saw him winning his fights. I saw him as the guy on a winning streak, someone who deserved the chance, but as the guy who definitely do the job, I didn't see him as that. But people who clamored for Ankalaev were definitely right about something, that he's got what it takes to get the belt. And with Pereira, Jay, if we're honest, and personally for me, I don't like guys who just have a bomb in one hand because I feel they rely on that. And it's just been that he's been able to throw that bomb at everyone and it explodes. It goes off and the fight is done. Because he never threw that left hook. He never did the entire fight. He never got a chance to. And the question is, if you don't have that left hook, what else do you have? And so he was exposed. Because oftentimes that's what MMA does. If you have one discipline, you're very good at that, just one discipline. Sometimes when someone else says, do you have this in your bag? And you're like, no, you get to suffer and we get to see that. But I think Ankalaev, Jay, that performance was proper. For me, I had it 4-1. For me, by the time the fourth round ended, for me, it was decided. I didn't even need to see the fifth one. You just needed to avoid getting knocked out for me. Because the pressure was there, the combinations was there. And I think the difference for me in judging is that Pereira threw a lot of leg kicks. I don't think leg kicks win you rounds. They give you it's an investment in terms of the guy won't be able to stand and throw properly. The guy will be hampered late in the round. But I don't think it's eye-catching for someone who's punching you in the face, someone who's kicking you to the body. So for me, he had a whole lot more action that won him the favor of the judges. So for me, Jay, not so much so surprised in terms of this is the guy that I was said to be the boogeyman, but the performance that he gave out in terms of shutting him out and not giving him space to breathe, that I was surprised by. And yeah, I think he'll reign for quite a long time.
McGregor, Oliveira, Volkanovski, Pereira, if you put a bearded Russian on the other side of them, these dudes just get it done. These Dagestan dudes, Chuck, are just world beaters. Like, and it seems as if just give them a chance. And what is going to happen, what the thing that is inevitable is that they're going to be champions. Because here's another one from that stable who's been crowned a champion in the form of Ankalaev. In terms of that fight, Chuck, I did think Pereira won the first round as he was throwing those kicks. But when he got rocked in that second round with the right hook, I believe the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
And what was so surprising for me was Pereira's performance in terms of he was so hesitant. One of the things I think in his last fight that we spoke about that I mentioned, it feels as though he's punching and kicking all at the same time because of his kickboxing background, right? You have to watch out for the strikes, and as you say, because he has that bomb in his right hand, and you're anticipating that he's going to throw that at some point, and he's going to hurt his opponent because that is his best chance at winning the fight. That's how he's won his fights. But he didn't do that. He wasn't aggressive. Instead, I saw Ankalaev back him down multiple times, and he was headed towards the cage, right? Which is why then at some point you see Ankalaev shooting at him and attempting the takedowns. The takedowns weren't successful. Yeah. And I'm also on the side of, man, why do you get a positive score for attempting and failing? Because
it's pressure, it's control time. You were doing something. It's
control time of what, Chuck, of nothing.
You are the aggressor, the guy is defending. Because on the flip side, how would you score that if you don't look
score
at that?
It because I know the counter is that you give it to the guy who's defending. You know, it's not action. It's neutral for me because he attempted, you defended, and maybe you can make the argument that you were successful in the defense, and there's a whole lot of weight that is given to the offense because he's the one who made the attempt. But if you make the attempt and you're successful at it, why should you be rewarded for that? And this is what Pereira said, that he did nothing. He said Ankalaev did nothing, and Ankalaev said that he was he was surprised that he kept backing down. So was supposed to happen. I think the result was a correct one. As I'm saying, it was a disappointing fight from Pereira because I expected so much more, especially when you hear his corner say, which is what I thought as well, that you are behind on the card. They say it might be 2-2, whereas I think it was 3-1 at that point. And he did need to take Ankalaev out. He needed to put him to sleep. But and I think that fifth round he was a little more competitive than the 3 preceding rounds.
Yeah.
But he looked gassed. And then when Ankalaev did once again have him up against the cage, he did not look like he's going to come out of that and do anything significant. So a disappointing performance from Pereira, but an all around performance from Ankalaev, because striking, he was right there, whether it was with his kicks or whether he was counterpunching with his fists or whether it was the attempted takedowns. He did everything, and Pereira just didn't come up with the answer to solve the issue on the night.
For someone who's introduced, I think, only one of 3 fighters as the one and only Alex Pereira, what a disappointment. Because that intro has only been given to John Jones and Conor McGregor. And if I'm not mistaken, definitely John Jones is still unbeaten, so he won.
But then, Chuck, when you consider Conor McGregor and what's happened,
yeah,
maybe I'm seeing it through the lens of today. But when he was at his absolute pomp, 2-division champion and being the face and the biggest star, biggest draw card ever in UFC, he deserved that. So Pereira getting that and then putting on that kind of performance, I'm with you, is disappointing.
Yeah, there was footage of Dana White looking at the scorecard from Bruce Buffer, and he was not happy with that. It seemed, because you've lost your star. That guy was active. That guy was the face of light heavyweight. That guy had. I mean, what do you do with that tagline, Sharma? Because now Sharma Ule is fallen off, but while he's the king of light heavyweight division, he's got the crowd captured. He's got everyone eating out of his hand. But now that he's fallen, it's very, very, very disappointing. But we'll see how that goes. There's probably a rematch in the works.
They have to rematch.
They have to, no?
They have to. He needs to go redeem himself, man.
But the Russians, Jay, the Russians just don't give up when it comes to MMA. And it's interesting with Dana White being friends with Trump and everything being pro-America, and the UFC, given enough times, the Dagestanis will rule the UFC. What do you do then? But that's an argument for another day. Jay, the last topic that we have for the day is cricket, right? And so ICC Champions Trophy has concluded. India beat New Zealand, which I think was what most people expected. Maybe that would have been our fate as well had we beaten New Zealand. Who knows? But I want to get your perspective, Jay, as a Proteas fan. Like at this point in time, because we do suffer heartbreaks, we do go into international competitions or World Cups thinking, can we not? And of late, we've made it to the final, but still close and no cigar. Where are you at as a Proteas fan, Jay? Do you still think at some point we'll win something, or do you think this record just keeps playing on and on and on, and they keep playing with your heart?
Listen, take these greens over and give me those whites. Get me to London, get me to Lords, and let us play Test cricket, because that is the real cricket anyway. All these other stuff are gimmicks that were invented to try and get the crowds into the stadiums and watching on television. But Chuck, we are hosting South Africa, that is the World Cup next year, and my hope has been re-sparked, if you want to say that, because of the new brigade. I see Devil Brevius leading the run scoring in the limited overs format locally at the moment in the One Day Cup, and I saw Leandre Pretorius in the SA20, and he's continued with the fastest ever century in Titans franchise cricket history in the One Day Cup as well. And you do still have your Gwena Mapakas, and coming into the team. So the hope is that those boys come in with a fresh perspective. They come in with a mindset that they want to continue playing their own game. They want to be dominant with the bat. They want to be fast and free scoring, and that the ills of the past don't ensnare them, and they don't become what we have seen for a long time with the Proteas, that man, given the opportunity to go out there and stamp your authority on the games that are high pressure situations, you retreat and you become lesser versions of yourselves. So my hope, Chuck, has been reinvigorated, especially also because, as I'm saying, on the test side, we do have an opportunity. We are in that World Test Championship final. I know it's not quite the same thing as those limited overs tournaments, but I can make the argument that it would be just as big winning that one because it does not carry the mantle of World Cup. I don't think it's something that you should look down upon. So if we win that, man, like all is set right in my world of cricket. But the Proteas are concerned, as I told you just last week, that I've tempered my expectations, right? Because I know what's coming. It's the same thing as with Arsenal. I know what is the likely outcome is that you're gonna get to a semifinal and crash out. And that one occasion you got to the final, and what happened. So if we get to the semifinals, we get to the finals, and we lose, that for me is, okay, this is what I expected was going to happen. So that if the opposite does happen and we win, oh man, I'm going to be ecstatic, So I think looking at the next thing is the World Test Championship. I'm confident, right? I'm confident that we'll do something, and that I do believe we're going to bring that one home. If we don't, the next opportunity is the World Cup on home soil. And I'm hoping between now and then we've incorporated those youngsters and your stubs who's young and also experienced at the same time. And we go and you play, I want to say without pressure, but there's going to be so much pressure because we're going to be playing at home. But we're gonna play with freedom. And man, Chuck, I hope and pray we're going to be alive for the next 50, 60 years still. Surely the Proteas are going to win something in that time.
It's those numbers that bring the question about you, because if I think about it, right, I see India left in that trophy. I'm like, they've got a good crop of players and they look one of the best sides when it comes to white ball cricket, right? In terms of white ball cricket, yes, not the whites in terms of the test apparel. But when it comes to test cricket, obviously we can match them to mano a mano, go toe to toe. When I look at India and I look at Australia and I look at in England as well, I'm like, we're as good as those sides. When you speak about good cricketing sides, we should be mentioned along with those sides. But when it comes to cricketing success in the limited overs format, we don't feature. And when I think about, like, for instance, the Springboks, right? For as much as All Blacks have been whooping us and they've been showing us flames, when it comes to World Cups, we're on par. I mean, England have got one, Australia have got one. But when it comes to the big boys, the stronger together thing makes sense, because after a while you back the boys, they give you something, you're like, see, it works, we're all in together on this. But in the year when we're making finals back to back, where the whole no DNA RSA thing started, at some point it was like, but the Proteas will always be the Proteas. And I thought to myself, where are we as a fan base with the Proteas? Are we stronger together with them, or have we detached ourselves? Because people will tweet, which I know what's happening. They're going to choke. And as much as you're saying we hope that these things don't filter into the younger generation, that's been from Hansi Cronjes to Daryl Cullinans to Sean Pollocks to Graham Smithers, and you're like, guys, when does this stop? At some point you're like, this is the team, because we're number one with the Test Mates, number one in Test cricket, number one in T20, number one in ODI. You're like, surely when a World Cup comes around we'll put it together, but it doesn't happen. And so I'm wondering to myself in terms of, how do you feel about the Proteas? I mean, yeah, New Zealand are like us, because they get there, and maybe they're the real chokers.
5 finals.
They're the real chokers, if we're being honest. But it's just a general heartbreak here of understanding how good this side actually is. When you look at how they play in the IPL, how they play in their franchise, how they play in the SA20, you're like, these guys can do good. When World Cups swing around, you're like, what happened? And it's that thing that makes me wonder, why can't I be like India and like an Indian fan or an Australian fan at some point and say, we've got something to show for all of our total in terms of a World Cup. So that's why I put the question up, Jay. I don't know if we win the Test Championship, if that moves the needle for me, because we've been number one. You hate Test
cricket, so it's fine. we don't need you to feel good emotions for us winning the Test Mace. I'll be happy for both of us. It's okay, Chuck.
But it's not even that, Chase, because I know how good we are in that format. I know give them a 5-game series. They'll figure out a way to get on top, or they'll draw the seasons. But when it's a situation where we have to find a winner today, you only have 50 overs to do it. You only have 20 overs to do it. Something happens where we're just not ourselves, and that gets to me. That bothers me. So where I am personally as a cricketing fan, this is my heartfelt letter to the Proteas. Do something, guys. Like, I'm there with you. I want the best for you, but sometimes it gets tiring. Hence why we as a nation had the relationship we had with Bafana, because it was like, And the thing with Bafana is that had it been AFCON, because yes, the AFCONs wouldn't qualify for. I know that's very embarrassing. But chances, more often than not, we are there because it's a continental competition. With cricket, they're like, 12 sides. So we'll make it to the World Cup. We just happen to be there all the time. But when we get there, that's what matters for me. When we get there, what do? We are flying, we're scoring 350s and whatnot, and then it's knockout time, and then it's almost same script, different cast. And I hate that. So I want the boys to succeed. I want to be behind them, but no Val. That's where I am, no Val.
Chuck echoes the words of Javas to Principal Ken when Supatsela was under siege. Sir, do something. Proteas, do something for Chuck. Except for if it's in the test arena, because he doesn't consider that to be something. But we have come to the end of this one. If you are new here and you have not yet done so, please subscribe to the channel. Please share it far and wide. And please do add your comments in the comment section. We absolutely love hearing from you and responding to you. And if you do want to continue the conversation even away from YouTube, you can do so by finding us across all social media platforms. It is at 2UpFrontPod. You can find me at J_Mzulu. Chuck is at Chuck2Up. From myself, Jay, I'm outie.
So Chiefs apparently benefited Asazi, but we saw the referee speak to the linesman, and then we saw the camera pan to the fourth official. We saw the camera also pan to Bobby. So something was said and someone benefited. If you keep watching us, we can make something work. This is Chuck, and I'm out.